Right, let's do that.
Canary too strong.
Pop this on. Hello everyone. Welcome to the lesson. Oh, Hugh got in as well. Perfect. We got a fair amount of people in here. So, if you're in the last lesson, you know how this usually goes, but I'm going to be talking through various topics as we go through. We've got about an hour here. It's about 10:05 we'll be going to. I'll talk about various different topics across v42. We'll be starting off with some pretty basic stuff. Just for this first day, of course. Second day, third day, fourth day, I'll get more advanced. Second day, I'm probably going to do basically the same run through though, just mainly for the people who missed today, and then we'll go over some basic stuff and then more advanced stuff mainly on Saturday and Sunday of the 2-hour sessions each one. So, lesson chat can be used to answer questions, ask questions and stuff. If you don't want to speak, I may put some things in there across the lesson, but of course this one I don't think I will be. You can watch the stream if you want to see the document, but I'll be basically vocally speaking everything here plus more in the channel, so it's easier if you make sure you just listen to here in Discord rather than listen to the stream, because then you can actually ask questions on time and such, and answer them if you wish to. If you wish to answer a question or ask a question, there's the hands up channel. We simply put up the hands up emoji, which is, I can't remember now, or is it hand? It's just hand, right? There you go, raised back of hand, I don't know. Just put a hand. I'd rather everyone did the same one, Regis, so if everyone put a hand, that would be very useful. If you want to answer a question or ask a question, so if you want to ask one, pop it up. If I ask a question to you guys, pop one up there and I'll let you answer. Just like that, thank you, Marissa. So just a raised hand, basically. No, Myra, not. So, we'll get started with our first lesson. So, as you all know, CXP is gone, and they've added gold. Everyone complained that it was gold and not amber, but that's a completely pointless thing for me to even dispute. Gold essentially works the same as CP. 1,000 gold, like 1,000 CP, equals essentially an attribute. Can you stop taking the hands up channel, please? Only put your hands up in there, or I will start banning people. Bear in mind. So yeah, the gold basically translates the same as CXP. Attribute points are used to purchase cards like card points are. Therefore, it basically equals out in that regard. The main difference is that you can also use your flat amount of gold to purchase certain consumables and cards and such. That makes it differentiate a little bit more towards from CP. We've also got a larger economy in general. You can reach 75 attribute points, which is the equivalent of 75 CP. It's also a little bit harder to obtain gold in general. There's a little less of it around, which makes it much more scaling. So you can sort of, the time you'd hit 75 attribute points is kind of the time you'd hit about 90 CP in a normal game. So we basically got a much more extended economy, which leads to much more scaling and drawn out games if you reach that stage, basically, if you play a more scaling comp. So your gold's used to purchase attributes. There's 3 of them: agility, vitality, intellect, as you all know. Each point of agility generally gives basic armor and attack speed. Of course, the big pips give different stats, or more of these stats. Vitality gives you health and health regen, and then intellect gives you mana regen. The most notable ones are the 12 ability armor on the 3rd big pip of vitality. The 2% lifesteal, I think it is, on the 1st pip of agility is quite important, as well as the last pip of intellect is very important, which is 15% CDR. So these are all very important things as you level up. You don't just get the gem, you also get the big pip worth of stats, which is a nice power spike that you should always consider when you're leveling attributes up. Some cards only need gold, some of them need and gold. There's only one card that uses attributes and gold in the game, I think, at the moment, which is the Protect Structures card, basically. So yeah, essentially, when you have a card that requires gold, you're spending the gold on that rather than the attributes. So therefore, because you get attributes back when you discard cards, you won't get gold back. So if you buy a Font of Experience and sell it, you now have to pay 1,000 gold if you want it back, which usually means you buy it once, so you never really buy it again. Some cards with the Cultivate card text on, like Forsaker, you'll be able to sell and rebuy at will, because of course their gold cost goes down as you get more attributes. So cursed cards. Does anyone want to tell me what a cursed card does, or what this effect has on a card? Yes, Semi? Semmer?
Yes. You can only equip them once and never give them back.
So you can't unequip them, yes. These curse cards basically are much stronger early game cards. They're very brute force. You lose that card slot for that one card and you can never discard it again. It makes them very upfront focused, basically. You usually get a lot of strength out of them early, and they can snowball very hard, i.e. Lord Volstock, you get huge XP leads. The Devastation card, or whatever it's called, you basically get tons of power as you kill towers. And then you've got Possessed Spriken, where you get tons of health regen, which helps you win laning phase super hard, or the 1v2 on off lane, or come out of the jungle super strong, or sustain reps and solo them. But of course, by the time you're sort of hitting 2-card spikes, these cards are still super strong. They're still solid mid-game cards, for example. But as you start to hit 3-card card spikes, like your late game build, that's when they start to fall off really, really hard. Very strong cards, though. Very much need to be considered. You'll see comps probably built around using curse cards in general to try and bit more aggro early game. So yeah, that's curse cards basically, only in the death affinity, of course. Cultivate, does anyone want to tell me what cultivate means? Anyone know what cultivate is?
Ooh, they get cheaper as you
Hands
spend
up,
points
come
in an
on.
attribute.
Don't just speak, Marcel. Gentle.
For every attribute point you spend, you get 500 gold reduced cost for the card. So
I'm pretty sure they're all 500, right? Just double check.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So cards like Flame of Zekin, Battle Shepherd, if you've seen that card, which is awesome. And a few other ones like Growth Totem, I think, they're all cultivate. They cost gold, but basically go down by 500 cost for every attribute point spent. So Flame of Zekin, once you have 4 attributes, it's free. You can buy and unequip at will, and also doesn't take any attribute points, which is a very beneficial thing. This is why growth is a bit more rampy and snowbally, because as you get more attributes, you get more of these free powerful cards. Flame of Zekin in particular is a very, very strong card. Are people host it? Fearless is hosting me. Okay, thank you, Fearless, for the host. Hope you had a good stream. Everyone, welcome to the lesson. Yes, that's cultivate. Basically, you're gonna get cheaper cards as the game goes on, basically, because the gold cost is going to go down. You can pick them up earlier, but at a larger cost, basically. So if you go back and you have 500 gold but only 3 attributes, you can still pick up Flame of Zekin, but it will cost you 500 gold permanently that you don't get back. Combustible. Does anyone tell me what combustible is? Yes, Dark Lord? Hello, Dark Lord? I don't. Are you there, Dark Lord? Rip. Or did you type in lesson?
Obviously.
Oh, he typed in lesson. Yeah, wait, okay, no worries, he's got no mic. When you die, it's unequipped, yeah. So essentially, when you have a combustible card, these only exist in Chaos. Cultivate was only growth, by the way. Yeah, combustible cards, when you die, you unequip them. So there's a large risk-reward to these cards. Basically, you can pick them up, they'll give you a very powerful effect, or a very scaling effect, but then if you die, you will lose this card, and you won't get it back, and they always cost gold. So again, you're picking up this card, gonna use it for a bit, but if you die instantly, you've just lost loads of gold. Hellfire Engine's a huge example of this, 7k gold. You pick this card up, you can do tons of damage, but if you get insta-die, you just lost 7 attribute points worth of gold. It's a hell of a lot. So there's huge risk reward to these. Profiteer's another big one. It actually takes a while until the Profiteer makes a profit out of itself, basically, and then actually starts scaling. So you got to be really careful of that one. It can get out of control if you keep on farming and farming and farming, but you can end up, you know, dying and losing tons of gold. So I tend to find that one not so worth it. There's a few combustible cards such as Outlander Scout, which is super strong and should be considered. They're only in Chaos Affinity. Elevate cards. Who wants to tell me what Elevate cards do? Anyone? Yes, Dirt of Dead?
They give you a pretty mild passive, but if it's the only card in your hand, you get an additional bonus for each attribute purchased. So
yes,
potentially you can get 75 additional bonus unless it has a cap.
Yep. No, you can potentially, yeah, go all the way to 75. 75 attribute points makes them very crazy. These cards being Knight of Asher, there's a support one, I can't remember what it's called, Gates of Salvation or something, I think. And then Godmother, Vigilance. There used to be Eternity Clock, but that got removed temporarily till they balance or fix it or whatever was wrong with it. Essentially, these cards give you a huge bonus if they're the only one equipped. You can still use them alongside other cards. Godmother's a good one for this. You get tons of HP, you get some power, and you get another 15% of your max HP increase. But if you have this is your only card, you get like an additional 1% max health for every attribute point you've purchased. If you have 25, it's giving you 40% extra max health, which means crazy. So much HP. You can have tens of thousands of HP, as you've seen with Sephiroth on Reddit, probably with 75 attribute points, potentially. They're very good to buy at level 13, because they cost 13 of one attribute, so you get 13 agility straight out just by the card. It's very powerful at that stage. It will start to fall off as you start to get towards 20 stats maybe, and then you need to start building like 2 free cards. Then they come online again as you hit late game, so you might want to combine it with some other cards and use it, or you want to use it alone when you start to hit like 50 attribute points. Extreme late game we're thinking here. Very powerful cards, can be used very well. You'll see Quang's running like Godmother and Knight of Asher, and then maybe like the Firmabon card is really strong. You'll be very tanky, do lots of auto attack damage. Knight of Asher is very strong. So yeah, that's elevate cards, and they're only in the order affinity basically. So apart from knowledge, everyone has their own sort of card text that's unique to it, and gives you a unique perspective on the game basically. So if we talk about risk reward, death is a huge thing in risk reward. Chaos is sort of the sub one to that with the combustible mechanic basically. Yes, they do, John Frush. So basically, when it comes to death cards, a lot of them are about sacrificing something of yours to gain something, right? So you can think about the card that sacrifices your HP to gain mana. This is quite a good card on someone like Narbash or Zinx, where you can sacrifice your HP and then heal it back up using these forms of mana gain, basically. You've also got cards like Sorvux, where you lose 8% of your max HP for a second. For 8% of their max HP, of course, it gives you tons of ability armor, which makes you more tanky to the effect, which means it's going to deal a net gain in terms of damage on them. Very good for taking out tanks or burning them down. It's also very good for killing carries pretty quickly. Very strong card late game for tanks on death heroes, but again, you've got to consider if you pop this on someone and they start out sustaining you or beating you, you're probably going to kill yourself with the own effects. Be very careful of how you use it. Same with cards like Withering Death and such that damage you. Then other cards like Profiteer, like we said before, there's a huge risk to buying them, but you can get great reward out of them. You can snowball way ahead in gold, or if you have Hellfire Engine, you can absolutely murder a team fight, like kill several people if you have good positioning. And that's going to sort of outweigh the risk if you can value the reward enough and make use of it, basically. So when it comes to heavy XP and gold gains versus other cards, so there's a lot of cards that give you a lot of XP or a lot of gold. There's things like Font of Experience, which will cost you gold and you gain XP. Lord Volstock's another example where you lose gold, gain XP. A bit more extreme because it's a cursed card. You've also got things like Highwayman, a bunch of others like, trying to think, Coin Master, isn't it, or something that gives you just gold out of combat basically. You got to think like, if someone picks up this card, what should I be thinking, you know? Because you can pick it up yourself, yeah, you're going to get more gold, you're going to get more XP, but these are known as a bit more greedy builds, especially if it's not like a support. A support picking these up, it's a bit more natural, but when you see a mid laner pick up Font of Experience, you got to think, how do I abuse this? So you can pick up something like Exoskeleton yourself. There's very powerful level 1 cards. Poised Aggressor, for example, is another one. You can abuse people that take Font very, very hard. Same with things like Coin Master and stuff in lane, due to the fact that you just have more raw strength for them. With an Exoskeleton, you can pretty much 1v1 anyone early. Poised Aggressor, you can just poke them out when they have Font and such. So abuse the fact that you have a stronger level 1 card, and they have this greedy scaling Font, and deny them some farm where you can. I think Font should never really be used on anyone but as support, due to the fact that you will just get bullied down in lane by a good player who's using the card that they have to their advantage. So always watch what card your opponent's using, what you've bought, and think about how you can use this as an advantage, basically. By all means, them having Font, you may think, oh, he's out leveling me, he's in level 2 first, this is really OP and stuff, but you're not abusing what you have at your level 1 advantage, and then what you have when you do hit level 2 is an advantage to them. It's only that slight little XP gain that's going to push them just into level 2, 1 million faster maybe, but you can counter that by being more aggressive in general. So make sure you play towards that style and such when you do notice this. So when it comes to general affinity guidelines and stuff, you of course will want to build your own decks and such. So you got to think, what affinities do I want to always get asked? What affinities do you run on this here, and what do you run on this? There's not really a set affinity you run on them. Like, Growth is sort of the jungle affinity, like if you want to be really focused on actual jungle in general, so sustain and clear and the secure of objectives and such, growth is a really good thing to pick. It's also very good for late game scaling, so it can be used on carries, it can be used on like supports for their gold gain and such, it can be used on your offlaner for their late game scaling durability, and basically tanking in general, lots of good effective tank cards. That's sort of when you want to pick growth. You want to tank, you want to jungle and have just generally good jungle clear and such, or if you want to scale to late game. Also some good minion management in there of Pack Leader and Battle Shepherd, so you can think about minion management within the growth affinity. Knowledge has extreme late game scaling. You've got some really good consumables late game that you can pop, such as Power Tap and Accelerator. Generator's not bad at all. These really scale basically. You've also got things like Font of Experience, which help you level up much faster, Soldier of Fortune, which allow you to get more gold and more XP faster, and in general a lot of it's all about ramping up to late game and getting very powerful, not too fast, but you know, has some brute force cards in there. Knowledge is also for ability damage in general, a lot of utility of things like blinks in there, and overall ramping into some debuffs in there. There's lots of slows and your small hit effects and such. You got a silence in there, gag, so the sleeper agent. So knowledge is a bit more for your late game scaling, utility, support, debuffs, that kind of stuff. Order is sort of your support affinity. You run it on pretty much every single support because that's Lamplighter in, which is the ward item. It's about heavy utility, sustain, minion buffs, shields, and also extreme self buff. So you can buff minions a lot, you can shield people, you can self buff yourself a lot with your own shields, you can shield allies, heal allies. There's a lot of support stuff in order, but there's also, of course, the self buffing stuff, which is very good for bruisers and fighters. So it's a perfectly good affinity to pick up. It can be a bit aggressive early, with Poised Aggressor too. Very strong level 1 card to run in lane or in jungle if you're ganking a lot, such as Chimera. Death is your very early aggro, so the cursed cards. It has the 2 pen cards that are super strong early, come online really fast, get your damage strong. High risk with massive rewards, such as cards like Sorvux and Withering Shadows, whatever it is, crazy card. And then you've got, of course, Stealth, Veil Stepper, the Shadow Dancer card, and then comeback potential things like Awaken the Emmerich. You can awaken waves and turn them around. You can quickly go backdoor and inhib to turn around the game. You can be a bit more tricky. So Death's a bit more early threat and that kind of stuff. Stealth, so if you're looking for that kind of stuff in your gameplay, pick Death. Knowledge Death is very much my kind of gameplays with high risk and late game scaling. It sort of complements each other with having a brute force early threat, this weak sort of mid game, but you've already got your lead, so you usually need to stagnate towards your late game where you come online again. That's why it's one of my favourite combinations. Chaos gives you high auto attack damage, sort of your carry affinity in general. You don't have to run it, but it is good because it does have things like Hellfire Engine and such, and you're a heavy hitter. It's also got a lot of reactive damage, such as Forndiomi and Unstable Cyborg, where you take damage and you're going to deal a lot back. High risk for high power gold gains basically, so as we said, Hellfire Engine, Profiteer and such, and then the massive bruiser potential, things like Nuke Blood Mutant, and again the 2 reactive cards I mentioned, Compensator Rig, so bruisers love this, a lot of junglers like this for Demolitionist and such, and Living Guardian. Supports quite like this for the Outlander Scout, and then carries quite like it for the high damage basically. So lots of good options in Chaos basically. Any questions about the affinities and such? No? We all Gucci? Of course, hopefully I see no more of that question in my chat ever again, on what affinities to put on each hero, because basically you just have to follow that sort of general guideline on what style you want to run, and then pick the 2 that you want. You should get something out of it. Of course there's going to be exceptions, there's going to be very unique cards like OPD Militia and Knowledge, which is like a mid-game aggro sort of card basically that you can run on Chimera for example, which is a little bit weird, but it's away from the sort of general idea of Knowledge, but there's always going to be exceptions and such. Gems, so utilizing gems properly is one thing that's pretty difficult. They're meant to be like cards, like each one's a card basically, in terms of its effect, but it's sort of to complement your build. Overall, the 6 gems and 3 cards should feel like 6 cards in the old patch. with more effects rather than stats, but then the stats come from the attributes, right? So in general, you should feel more powerful, which most people seem to be, so that's obviously a success. But gems are very, very important. You should think about how they synergize with the rest of the deck. Think about what your final build is. Try and make sure you try and get 6 gems by that final build. Maybe you can have one that sort of just curves a bit off, so that when you've got your final cards, you just level up that attribute a bit more to get that final gem. If it's key to your deck, you could be thinking about like the Amplify Aura for my version 2 Rampage deck. I have 225 gems in there. Once I've maxed out Vitality and got most of my Intellect, I've got my final build, then I finish off Intellect to get the Amplify Aura, because it helps the deck a lot in terms of late game scaling. So gems in general, you want to try and fit in within that curve. Then if you're early aggro, you maybe want 3 level 1 gems. You can have Auto Shield, you can have Healing Towers, and you can have, I don't know, you can have the Auto Health Potion. This will allow you to just completely like crush a 1v2, for example, if you have all 3 online. Have lots of sustain and lots of durability that allows you to actually perform a kill or 2 on the 1v2, such as a Severog or something. Otherwise, you're looking to scale mainly into one attribute. If you're like a caster, you just go max Intellect all the way up to 25. Max attribute points is, well, I mean, it depends on your build, basically, LW. But yeah, most attribute points you want to put like all in one. So casters, you put all 25 in Intellect, then you can go for like Sleeper Age and Atomic Soldier Formatage, basically, which is like your bread and butter standard caster build, because it all adds up to 25 Intellect. You get your overpowered spells on. You can have a level 1 gem alongside that, and you're on your spike. Can be really strong. But you can also do things like, you know, max Vitality for tank, max Agility for assassin carry, and then you can start to mix things up when you go into like shield builds, where you want to sort of hit 13 Vitality maybe if you're running Vampiric Blade as well, because that's 12 in total, then plus 1, so you can get damage return, damage reduction out of the Vitality tree, and then you can get like 4 Agility gems basically, such as the Lifesteal, which complements it well, Relentless Pursuit and stuff like that. So gems are all about just complementing what cards you put in. You think about what your cards are. So first you think affinities, what's the general gameplay plan, what cards can I use to then utilize what my overall plan with this hero and deck for this hero was, or heroes, and then use your gems to then enhance it further, basically. Is the idea. That's why they've done it in that sort of stage layout, although the UI could be a bit better and you could do it all in one. I do like that they put gems after cards, basically, because it's more important that the gems complement the cards rather than cards complement the gems. Vision options, so a lot of people complain about lack of vision. If so, just run order, that's all I'm saying. If you want more vision, you can run order and you can place wards everywhere. You'll see the massive gold cost it costs you. Supports will get used to the fact that they should be buying wards back, buy more wards back, buy more wards constantly, using quick exit to get out of base and just place wards everywhere. If you want that kind of vision, that's what supports will mostly be doing these days. They'll also be getting Outlander Scout against stealth heroes, that's another vision option. If you've got enemies that buy stealth on offlane, or you're against a Kalari, Outlander is going to be very, very important. Denies them all their farm, denies them assassination potential on your carry. Overall, very powerful card. You can also deal with the enemy's wards. Your other vision option, and I think it's your only other one, is Finder of Playthings in Death, which is also very good, because it allows you to activate it when you don't know where their jungler is, you haven't got any other vision on the map, you think you might be ganking somewhere, you pop it. Try to combine this when you're trying to go on their offlaner or something. You pop it, you see where the jungler is. If he's near you, you can back off. If he's near one of your other lanes, they can back off. Then you can target the offlaner and then go on him when he has reduced move speed and attack speed. So it's another vision option. It replaces wards in its own regard, which is quite good. Yes, Janto?
What about Protective Sentry?
Protective Sentry, so the other ward basically in order. Yeah, so it's basically rechargeable. I think you should rarely use it for the basic armor. It could be a nice necessity if the Kalari goes on your carry and you place it so you can spot him and it gives him basic armor so he doesn't die. But it's more so for the fact that you can put a ward down in 45 seconds. The reason I don't personally like it over Lamplighter is you only get 1 charge every 45. You can place 2 while you're out there, which is 1.5 minutes, but then you're sort of like staggering for the next one, whereas Lamplighter you can place 2 wards immediately for 300 gold, then you can go back, you can buy 2 and you can quick exit out and place 2 more immediately, or within 1.5 minutes then go back and buy a like sentry ward and then place 1 occasionally. So that's how I'd use it personally. Make sure you can get lots of vision out there, because I find that with just arm and sentry you don't sort of have enough vision, maybe just for the major objectives, but not sort of for gank paths or trying to set up kill walls or anything like fog walls. But it is a perfectly viable option, yeah, in order. Enough one that all support should consider having in the deck, basically. Yeah, thank you for that one, that's a good one. New attack speed, so a lot of people complain about the new attack speed. I think it's whatever. I think late game it's fine that people hit that fast. I think it's fine that people scale like that if that's what Epic want. Once they fix animations, it won't look ridiculous. That'll be fine. Grux is a good example of that. They changed his animation. It doesn't look great, but it shows an example of how they can fix it so it doesn't look ridiculous with attack speed, because at least it looks okay when he's got high attack speed, whereas with the old one he would have been literally swinging super hard. So I'm glad they're trying to find ways to remedy that. They'll fix like Feng Mao, Seraph, etc. In terms of that. I do think early on attack speed maybe should be bumped down a bit, but again, this is going to require a whole rebalance of cards and gems in general. For example, you should be utilising your jungle assassin and jungle lifesteal gems with the high attack speed, basically, to give yourself lots of sustain and lots of clear, demolitionist and stuff, it's things like that. But in general, with more attack speed, on-hit effects become more important. Things that flat increase damage are very important. Attack speed is very natural to gain. You gain it for a lot of cards in general. So you can sort of, build around the fact that you have lots of attack speed naturally, rather than build more, because you never really need to build more. It comes naturally on a lot of cards. You shouldn't need to build it primarily. You don't really look at the stats on cards like you do if you're building a tank. You sort of look for the ability armor and such. As a carry, you're not looking at the attack speed stat ever, really. Like, you're buying Nitro Boost for the move speed, you're buying like Sacred Alchemy for the shields, you're not buying it for the attack speed. It comes naturally everywhere. There's a lot of it, maybe a bit too much. But in general, it means you should be utilising your on-hit effects more. It means bruises are going to be doing more in team fights. It means carries are going to scale harder to late game. It means casters can clean up waves quicker after their wave clear. People say there's a lack of wave clear, but casters still pretty much one-shot waves, and even if they don't, the attack speed will allow them to finish off the last minions with one hit consistently. So plenty of reasons why the attack speed is fine and how they've balanced it around it. It could be toned down early, which means they need to buff some early gems, buff maybe some early cards like Demolitionist, but otherwise I think it's okay, and I think it scales fine. I think mid to late game it makes perfect sense. If you do build tons of attack speed on Howitzer, it probably should look a bit ridiculous because he's not meant to have tons of attack speed, basically. Same idea in League. If you build tons of attack speed on Malzahar, he looks like he's having a rave, basically. So same idea. It's something that you'd never really see because it would be a bit of a troll build, as you'd call it. Yeah. So then we'll move on to jungle camp changes. So of course, if you ever watched my stream, I'm not too keen on the new jungle in general. I think it's kind of boring. Reasons I think it's boring is because you don't kill the camps very quick early, which makes them a bit more dragged out, because it doesn't feel like you're killing them quicker. You're still killing them pretty quick, but it feels like you're killing them slower because you're doing so much less damage per hit, and it's taking ages and you're hitting it so often. It feels dragged out, so it makes the jungle feel a bit more dull there. And then there's no kiting as well, so there's no need to kite anymore apart from green. We'll talk about kiting green. But in general, white camps are more durable and there's less damage in general. You have more attack speed, so it takes you a little while to just pump them down, but it also makes things, as I said, like Jungle Assassin and Demolitionist important, a good combo early, to be able to clear camps very quick. Most melee heroes can jungle now. Basically, Shimbi's a fantastic jungler at the moment, for example. Richter can jungle. Name a melee, they basically can jungle. Narbash is super strong, It's pretty crazy now. Even Howie, I've played him today, he can work. He can clear pretty fine. He also has cleave on his auto attack, so he's essentially melee in that regard, and his ganks aren't too bad early. He's still very invadable though. There's two standard clears. A standard one would be white, white, green, so back or and then front or side, then back or front whites and then green. Then do the other 3 stack, one of the 1 stacks, then you're level 3 because you need one less white minion for level 3 now. You can also leave at level 2, go to the river buff, and then get the level off mid lane just from one minion dying nearby. So that's the first standard clear. And the second one, if you take quick exit, or if you have a fast clear with Demolitionist and Jungle Assassin, you can do white, white, green, go straight back, and then either run back to green side and do the 3 stack and a 1 stack and then go to the camp, or do the off lane 3 stack basically and then leech off of mid again, basically like that. A couple questions in Twitch. So, one-shotting people as Revenant, it's possible. It's a super greedy build. It's pretty late game. It takes him a while to get there. He has to invest in Intellect 2. One vision option will completely shut it down. Then he loses things like Hellfire Engine if he really is one-shotting. You can use self-peel. You can use shield cards. There's plenty of ways to counter it. I don't think it's that bad. People say, and then Comax just said that, I've had this a lot, people think insane attack speed takes away from aiming and takes the skill away. I don't think that's a thing at all. If one guy hits 4 times per second, another guy hits 4 times per second, the guy that hits all 4 attacks per second, and the other guy hitting 3 per second, the 4 attack per second will win. Everyone's shooting just as much. If anything, it's going to be harder to aim because you've got to hit more autos in general. You don't have time to target between each auto, therefore you're having to adjust on the go more so, which means you need to hit more autos, which means there's more skill involved because you still have to hit more autos than they do. Yes, it's more forgiving against a caster, for example, who has way less attack speed than you, relies on spells. If you miss a couple autos, it doesn't matter because you can readjust, but the best carries will still be hitting all their auto attacks, which takes a lot of skill, whereas lesser carries are going to be missing a lot of autos and still killing people because it'll be lower elo, but if they're in higher elo, missing those few autos would punish them still, regardless of how many autos they're firing. So I still think there's actually more skill involved with attacking faster in general. Melee doesn't really apply, but ranged it does. Any questions about the jungle camps in general? No? Cool. Raptors. Raptors are easy to solo now. They're more of a solo objective. You should probably take them alone, more so than with the team. It's quite hard to group as 5 because they don't give a crazy amount of gold, so it's not really that just rushes 5 objective anymore. Of course, you will be doing that as you group up and stuff, take mid lane stuff, go clear raps really quick and leave, but they're pretty easy to solo now with high sustain heroes. Characters like Wukong Seraph clear them super quick, so the melee carries. People with Flame of Zekin will one-shot one. You can just go pop Flame of Zekin, leave, come back in, pop Flame of Zekin, leave, and just clear them slowly. Or you can plot Flame of Zekin, kill one, then kill the other 2, because of course you take less damage from 2 than 3. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to easily solo Raptors, and I feel they're more of just one-man objective, give you about, I think it's 1.6k gold or something in total, or more towards 2k. There's a couple of tribute points still worthwhile taking, but make sure you solo them as a jungle. Or as, like, you know, a mid lane, even if you buy Flame of Zekin, you pop over, we saw a gadget run Growth, which was really interesting. I can't remember, it was Growth in Order maybe, to get Malik's Nasher later. But yeah, ran Flame of Zekin early to scale quickly, basically by popping it on Raptors after scaling it up on lane minions, basically. Remember, most people do say this, Flame of Zekin you can sell, and then you can rebuy it, and it will still retain the damage that you built up with the uses. So most people don't seem to know that for some reason, but that's how it works. It doesn't lose the damage you gained before, it's effect that affects you rather than affecting the card. But yeah, having, basically. Orb Prime. Soloing Orb is still possible. They're trying to make it so it's not as soloable by making lifesteal not efficient on it. That's helped. The shield card affecting OP is a bug, so Sacred Alchemy is a bug applying on it, which is essentially 20% lifesteal, which makes most heroes able to solo it if they just pick up that card. So that'll be fixed with time. Otherwise, people can abuse it as they please because it's a bug, it's in the game, whatever, everyone should use it. But you can still solo it as, say, Chimera. Yeah, Chimera, lol. Solos Prime at 10 minutes and takes him a minute and a half, and there's no vision on it, no one walks past it, and he happens to get it. Someone could easily come along if they have it warded, CC him, and then steal the Prime, or kill him, or secure a Flame of Zekin, anything. There's so many things that are wrong with this solo early orb thing, because it takes so long for the character to do. You're better off grouping up and doing it, because you're most likely going to lose it. You'll very rarely see a solo happen in higher level play, unless it's actually like a 2-man, basically, a bruiser and like a carry that goes at it and does it really quick, and then the other free zone or something. You're very rarely going to see one guy just doing it, unless it's completely cheese, and even then when you stand for that long, you're losing so much efficiency, so much else can happen on the map while you're doing the soloing the Prime. Flame of Zekin is ridiculously strong this patch. I think it needs to be tuned down. Most people will probably be running at least 1 in a comp on the jungle, if not 2 on support, if not even 3 on mid lane. 3 Flame of Zekins once they're stacked up towards 20 minutes. Probably do 2/3 of Orb Prime's health. You can burst it down super fast. Literally just melt it. The card is completely busted. It's super strong. It's free to pick up for growth heroes once they get 4 tribute points. It's easy to scale up quickly. It allows you to get lots of farm as you scale up quickly, push lanes, take jungle, invade jungle, take greens. Ridiculously powerful. It's just smite from League that infinitely scales, which is way too strong. It's easy to just sell pop on another card after you have Orb, and then, you know, use your huge advantage and then go back and then buy Flame of Zekin again when Orb comes up. Albeit Orb is a little less useful now. It's more for the gold gain early on if you're going to use it, trying to get T1, maybe T2 down. But yeah, at the moment it gives a lot less damage and HP than it did before, and it's a little more awkward to do in general, so it's very easy for people to collapse on you and do it, and kill you basically and take it. So it's a little more risky compared to usefulness as it was before, but it's also easier to do in general when you have Flame of Seconds and such. But a little less reward for taking Orb now. So it's a little less useful than before, but it still does the same thing as it does before, and you should use how you used it before, and especially to close out games. Any questions about Orb Prime? No? No Prime? Cool. Waves and lane pressure. So as you know, minions have increased dramatically in terms of wave size. You're getting massive minion waves late game that slow push super hard. It's basically no different to before, because all the minions are weaker in general, so there's just more of them. But they will do a lot, basically, if you use them appropriately. So again, lane setting is going to be the same thing. Slow pushes, you might want to kill a couple ranged minions now, because they're larger waves in general. If you want it to push a little bit of speed, you don't want it to be super slow. It's easier to set lanes in general because of that. It's very easy to just kill one minion, two minions and such, and move on to the next one. Minion waves being more spaced out means it's harder to kill without CC, so make sure you have a rampage you can throw a rock through the wave to group it up more so your caster can then clear it. Things like gadget right click are much more useful right now, grouping up the entire wave as they walk through the slow for a gadget line to blow up. I've already talked about that, Maggie, please. So yeah, basically clearing the waves is very, very easy still, but they're much more important due to the fact that you've also got cards that buff yourself with minions or buff the minions in general. You can use things like Pack Leader to target people. The minions will follow them for 30 seconds, relentlessly trying to kill the target, which is absolutely hilarious, but can do a lot, especially if you combine it with cards such as Flagbearer, I think it is, which is the one that gives the minions max HP and stuff, and then you get 25 basic damage or something crazy while near the minions. You got Battle Shepherd, which gives the minions tons of power and health regen. You got Awaken the Emmerich, which turns minion waves around, which then you can buff with these cards. You can do a lot of minion master builds now and split push builds with these kind of cards. They're pretty fun. They could see some play. They're actually quite strong cards as well. Manipulating minions has always been a huge thing if you're in laning phase. For example, just simple trades, you've got to be wearing much more minions than the actual player most of the time, because the minions are the ones that will do a lot of damage. And you can abuse those in trades. I did that today on stream, for example. I think I was playing Gadget or something against Aztec Sparrow, and then he was shooting me when there was a couple minions around, and yeah, he died very quickly. To the minions, not to myself. I was just auto attacking. So there's lots of ways you can abuse minions, and in general, you should be looking at these cards as well if you want to abuse them. Of course, people know the cheesy Awaken the Emmerich, where you can run up to their inhib with no minions, turn a minion wave around and kill the inhib. There are ways to counter this through vision options and stuff, Finder of Playthings and such. If you know there's a Wukong with these Shadow Dancer on that card, you should be considering picking up Finder of Playthings and keeping track of where he is, and using wards near your inhib so that you know that if he's coming towards them. And then you can collapse on him, kill him, he dies in like half a second, still takes some ages to kill the inhib, and then they've got 4-man Paragon for a little while, maybe 60, 70, 80 seconds depending what stage of the game it is. They basically just lost their carry as well, or offlaner, which is a huge part of the team comp. Like at the moment, offlaners and carries have two of the best late game impact, so there's plenty of counters to it. You can also run like Kalari for your global ult to just jump on him. There's lots of ways you can deal with it, so it's not really that OP. It's just one simple cheese strat that people run. You'll often see carries have it in their deck for late game if they're running Death Chaos, so they can cheese a turnaround. If they have an enemy has an inhib down, you can turn like 2 waves around by the core, and then just run and kill the core. But yeah, it's a very late game build, and it's not too strong. It's just a nice turnaround card. As I said, Awaken Emerich's a very good turnaround card, basically, to get things more in your favour, or snowball more in your favour. Right, cards. Are there any cards that people want to talk about, know about, where they want them to fit in, etc., etc.? Is there any cards in general anyone wants to discuss, basically? Any at all? Now's a good time to do so. Yes, Phantom. Phoenix. Elevate cards. We already discussed the Elevate effect. What do you want to know about them? when is a good time to use them. So as we discussed when we talk about elevate cards, it's good to use them on the 13 spike that you can buy them on. 13 agility, straight away buy it. Knight of the Asher, very strong. Use it for a few more attributes as you get them, then start to sell it and buy some other cards, and then you can start using it in final builds again, because it's good to use them with a couple other cards anyway. And then as you scale more into late game and get to extreme late game, when you get towards 50 attribute points, that's another good time to use them solo. Otherwise they still include in final builds basically. They're pretty strong if you play around their effects in particular. In Twitch chat, cultivate cards ever reset? No, I don't think so. I don't know what you mean by that, but no. Whatever it be. Curse cards I think are worthwhile. I think every curse card's worthwhile in its own regard, as long as you use it for what it's intended to do. Feng Mao, it depends what you want to do. Thunder Cleaver for jungle, super strong. Should run it if you're playing jungle and have growth, because you can, running adds you vitality specs, of course. So you can clear jungle super fast. Death Crawler, what about Death Crawler? Strong, nice card. Can one-shot people with the 4th auto. Yes, Marissa?
So like Mana Flow Acolyte increases mana and power by 0.5% whenever you purchase Intellect.
Yes.
Like, do those stats stay?
No.
No, so as soon as you like
you will lose
sell
them when you
those
sell
are
the
gone.
card.
Yeah.
It's more of a curve card. You think comparing it to Tyrant basically. You build Tyrant or Mana Flow Acolyte, you scale them up all the way until they're basically maxed out or really strong, and then you sell them and then buy a late game card basically. They're just there to scale over and become a strong mid game card from an early game card essentially. That's what they're designed to do.
Sure.
Not to be
So, but like say you purchased it like 4 points into Intellect already, you would get the 2%.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Already. Okay, fair.
I think you do at least. If you don't, then that's pretty garbage as it is, but it should be all your points, based on what I said, told in the PTR model Epic. Gento?
I'm thinking about late game support cards, and obviously a lot of them are in order, and they're like big shields and big heals and things like that. And I know this is dependent on both your comp and what you're trying to achieve and things, but what do you think of things like Corrosive Walker for a support and things like that, where you're like ability armor reduction and things like that?
Yeah, you can be creative with support. There's a lot of other cards I've been looking into that you can sort of run. Corrosive Walker, for example, is a really good example. It'd save it having to run it on your caster, for example. Some don't want to pick it up. I actually used it on Gadget today, for example. We had a great Deca Cage on 3 people. I used that and popped my ult down. Everyone died in like half a second. The card is very strong, but you might not want to buy it on your caster because, as you said, it doesn't give too much power, a bit of HP, and then the effect is just purely for the effect, and it's a 12 cost card. Could be considered for late game for a support. You can do things like Black Ice Routine again, like if we just look through knowledge in general. Black Ice Routine is quite a nice one to have. Stasis Room could be fine. Sleeper Agent is really good if you're Richter. You can silence them, you can Sleeper Agent them, you can silence them again, and you basically silence them for like, 6 seconds alone, solo, by yourself. You can buy things like Static Trap, but that's not too much for a late game. If you're looking at growth late game, you can consider Battle Shepherd, so you can set waves and split push and stuff. It's a free card basically at that stage. You can be tanky with Unbroken Spirit if you need to be more durable. Trapper's not even a bad card for a support late game, but you do need agility. Then again, there are lots of agility support cards, to be honest. Spriking is ridiculously good. You can actually even run that late game, especially if you're someone like FaZe. It's really good. If you look at order, as you said, there's lots of good ones. Song of the Sentinel is the big one that pops up for me. I think that card's crazy good late game. People underrate it a lot. If you're in a team fight, 22 attack speed per member and 18 basic armor, you're almost giving your team 18 attributes of agility, each, which is mental. That card is crazy good. Late game, you got Group Stasis, which is great for making plays. If you're playing like an Aurora support, it's great for setup or steal. Of course, you said Malink's Grace and Malink's Prayer, good late game order cards as well. For support, if you're looking into death, you can use things like Sorvok Initiate, for example. You can use the Plague Lord Malink is super strong. Nameless Curse is super strong on a support because you never really want to kill the target, but you're going to do constant damage to them all the time if you just pop it on them. Awaken the Emmerich is pretty much a necessity if you go death support. And then of course Finder of Playthings or Warlock's Burden if you're going Narbash. Chaos, you're probably looking at late game, super late game. Red Zone is super good. You can look at things like Riot Sapper is pretty nice. Other than that, there's not too much in support. Chaos with support fund, Yomi's okay. But you're mostly just looking at Outlander Scout, Timeless Reaper for support, I feel there.
Cheers.
Cool. So let me catch up with Twitch chat. Sport cards are a little bit weak. No, I don't think they are at all. I think they're fine, especially seeing as the Order 1 scale, so the shield is super strong with your HP. So when would you pick up Deathcrawl or the move speed near towers? Move speed near towers I'd pick up ASAP if you're going to run it, because it's good for getting to lane. Deathcrawler I'd pick up like after a couple other cards, like more towards the end of agility, more towards the 25 mark. I'd assume Countess is much more viable now. She's okay. Yeah, Countess is okay, basically. I haven't seen her much. I think she could be really strong off lane if played properly. In jungle, she's not that great, from what I've seen. Sephora at 12k HP. Basically, he was 2 hours into the game of a bot game where he had farmed all game for 75 attribute points and then had one card that gives him HP. You will never see that realistically, so big whoop. It's out of context picture. Auto health potion or tower healing in which roles? Tower healing in general if you're just wanting to sustain in lane. Auto health potion is just sort of an add-on in my opinion. I don't like it that much. Okay, what about in here? Doc Lucas, you had a question? 1 point card in knowledge that gives you 350 points around. Would this work with the Revenant? Yes, it would work with Revenant Soul. It's not a bad card to pick up in general. If you think you're going to be alone killing people offlane, for example, then yeah, it's very, very strong, and you can snowball with it. And nice thing is it doesn't cost you gold, so there's not much risk to it. You can just pop it on. You don't have an early game card in its place, but if you do get the kill, it really pays for its worth. Just one kill even is really nice. Crazy K, Growth Totem versus Tyrant. In my opinion, Tyrant's way stronger. It comes online faster, you get more worth out of it much faster. Growth Totem, till you get to like 45 minutes in, isn't worth it, and you have to pick it up ASAP, and then, you know, it's got a ramp, it's kind of meh till all the way till then it starts getting good. Tyrant, you know, from like 8 to 10 minutes when you pick it up, all the way until, you know, 25 minutes when you sell it, super strong, all the way through. It doesn't need crazy late game scaling, so Tyrant, in my opinion, is way better. Growth Totem I'd only consider if I get really far ahead early, manage to bang tons of points into attributes, maybe pick it up for 1,000 gold or something, and then pop it on instantly and try and scale then. If I'm planning for a late game, even though I'm ahead, which doesn't usually happen, but it is possible. When would Red Zone be worth the risk? If you're running lots of long range heroes on your team, and they've got lots of short range, for example, it's really good. You can run near your allies, they can shoot them 50% more damage. You can run near the enemy, and your allies do 50% more damage to them. You will take 50% more, but your damage dealers will deal more at longer range. So you want to manage it basically so that you're not giving double damage to your allies when you're close to them, but you want to get it so that they can deal more damage than they're going to be taking. You know, using that kind of positioning is quite difficult, but it can be strong. You can also use it on someone like Kalari late game, which makes her Q, like auto attack, stealth, deal 50% more damage, but you'll die very quickly too. So yeah, Red Zone has its uses. Yes, Gento?
Quick one. On Awaken the Emmerich, what exactly is Death Touch and Drain Life, and does it last until the minion dies?
Death Touch means your minions insta-kill their minions when they shoot them. It's an old effect we used to have when we had All Prime, which was the Dark Days, basically, as they called it. Every minion on the map got Death Touch for 30 seconds, and every wave pushed automatically, and it was absolutely horrendous and stupid. So yeah, it does that basically the wave, so it insta pushes super hard, and then Drain Life means they lose health slowly. So if you have a card like Battle Shepherd that gives them health regen, they actually sustain through it, and you can keep them alive until they hit towers.
Right.
So
they
yeah,
actually
they slowly die.
slowly
So
lose.
yeah. Otherwise, if it just had Death Touch and just pushed, it'd be OP as hell. But yeah, they'll lose after a while. Well, they'll die after a while, and you lose out. What would you use for a final build on an Order Chaos Carry? Double Shields Hellfire Engine's pretty good. Which 1 point card best in your opinion for the offlane, Cold the Weak or the Wealth card? So if you're considering Growth Death, I'd consider cards like Tower Strider. Cold the Weak's okay. If you're looking at Growth, you can consider Exoskeleton super strong, and Coin Master's pretty meh. If you're looking at Knowledge, Advanced Evolution's really good. Rejuvenator, sorry, is pretty good. Shipyard Scavenger if you want to snowball. Order, Armored Footman, Poised Aggressor are both amazing in offlane. You can go aggro, you can just be really defensive. Then look at Chaos. Demolitionist isn't that great. Living Guardian isn't great. Tireless Reaper can be okay on casters though. But yeah, something like that. Cool. Any more questions about cards, or shall I move on to our next bit? Yes, Phantom? Yes, Magister it can be, but make sure you have sustain somewhere else. Sacred Alchemist versus Death Lifesteal card. I mean, I'd run both. I think the shield card is super strong. If you're going for extreme late game build and you want to choose either, then and you're not going to have like Malinks with it or something, I'd go for the Death Lifesteal card, the Vampiric Blade. Vampiric Blade scales very well with 2 damage cards basically, but if you're running Malinks, then you can run Malinks and Sacred and Vampiric, so having both is pretty good. I mean, if you're going Order Death, you should go like all 3 anyway. I think that's better. If you're going like Chaos Death, then you don't get the shield cards anyway. If you're going Chaos Order, then you're probably going Sacred Alchemy anyway, you see. So you're pretty much running both, or you're not running either, due to affinities. Yes, Dark Lord? Ability damage Quang's terrible. Which cards would be best for soloing Prime as quickly as possible? Flame of Second is the only big one that I can consider. Apart from that, you're looking at like, you know, Living Guardian and stuff. I mean, you don't want to solo or early. In terms of quickly, even like mid to late game, you're looking for just high damage, or your carry just needs to put lots of damage and attack speed and just burn it down. The third card I mentioned, Malink's Tribute. Basically, order card 4/4, agility, vitality, more shields basically. Okay. We'll move on to common card synergies. Does anyone want to give me any common card synergies they've seen so far? We've mentioned a few in high level play, such as shield build, etc., things like that. If you come across any 2 free card synergies that you guys want to mention? Anyone? Does no one watch my stream? I mention them a lot on my stream, on the common ones that we see. Quite outrageous now. Oh, Protag's typing. No? Yep, Protag.
I guess just how the numbers work on the 2 shield cards together. Because I've noticed people expect to do a lot more damage with those 2 cards, but generally people don't know how to play with them. So just how the build functions as a build, rather than... Because the old carry builds all seem to be do a lot of damage in one shot and hope that you kill them as quickly as possible. Whereas now it's completely different, so just...
Yeah, heavy sustain, basically. So,
and also what the
shield.
third card with those would be.
Yeah. So double shield, you can run it with Chaos or Death usually, they're the common 2. If you're going with Chaos, you can go things like Hellfire Engine and such, or the Shatter Golem to go with them. Otherwise, you're looking to Death of Vampiric Blade. For heavy sustain, you're going all in on the sustain there. You'll deal less damage, you're only doing 300 damage a hit, but you'll sustain a hell of a lot with this. It's a very common carry build, fighter build. You see it all over the place at the moment because it's pretty hard, basically, to play properly. So a lot of people think they can just YOLO it. Doesn't always work, but then again the counter to it's hard CC, and most people can't coordinate their hard CC. So the shield build is one of those common builds you'll see around. Doc Lucas, yes? Yeah, the overheal and life... Yep, lifesteal card, that's the double shield build basically. Dark Lord? I saw Protect. Let Dark Lord do one. I'll talk about the one that Ray just mentioned in the Twitch chat in a second. Trapper in the card that gives damage stacks, and I believe it slows the enemy. What's the card that gives damage stacks? I know Trapper's the one that slows and then roots. Which one are you referring to? Is it this one? I mean, this one... Do you mean Apex Predator? Because, I mean, that permanently stacks. I don't know if it has an internal cooldown or not, because I've never used it before. It does look quite strong. There's a curve card. Trying to think which one you mean, man. And Protect, you want to ask one while I look through the cards?
Just back to the shield cards thing. What do you think about using that as a mid-game build? Just for, you pick all the shield cards up, you pick up a third card to supplement them, and then you do all the objectives, you farm a bunch of jungles, you get some kills and survive a lot, and then once you get a bunch of farm, you just pick up a final endgame build that does something different, like
I use that in a couple of mine.
Switch to... Oh, right, sweet.
For example, my Chimera OPD build, I run OPD into double shields into OPD and some other cards for late game scaling, because they're better than the shields actually in extreme late game. OPD Militia is not a ramping card, but yeah, on Chimera it's pretty good. Yeah, the one that Ray just mentioned in Twitch chat, that's Gag Order Atomic Soldier Formatage, 3-card combo, adds up to 25 intellect. It's the bog standard caster build you'll see most of the time. It's very easy to build into, curve into a Mana Flow Acolyte and such. It's very easy to play with, it's just lots of damage, the silence counters a lot of heroes, makes it fun to play. You can burst people super hard, you usually combine it with ruthless spells, overpowered spells, so you can just absolutely murder people. Super strong. Apex Predator and Trapper, yeah, I can see that being pretty strong. I don't know if it has like an internal cooldown, I'll have to have a look at it, but yeah, that would be a good synergy. Tracks of Protein Murder while using other heroes, yep. One you'll see is the Stealth Trap one with Richter actually, which is both in Knowledge actually. Oops, let me just get rid of that. So if you look at Knowledge, you can find Echelon Soldier and Static Trap. Once you've got both of these, it's quite hefty to build, but once you pop it down, you pop the Static Trap down, you stealth on top of it, you hook them into it and it blows them up, and then you just literally CC lock them and murder them. If you have a carry with you, even better. So they're a nice little combo that you can see. Others I think of is what I just like to call the AIDS build because it's stupid. And people melt. It's Sorvix Initiate, Withering Shadow and Plague Lord Malink. They're slowed next to you, they're taking tons of damage while next to you. Your Lincolns take even more damage, you take less damage because you have ability armor, you have tons of HP from all these cards. They're blighted so they can't sustain through it. And if you have like Rampage ult, Greystone ult, you know, you're just super tanky basically, so it's a stupidly strong build. These three cards in combination with each other, it's like they're built to go with each other basically. It's 23 vitality and 14 intellect, so it's not even that much of a late game spike. It's not extreme late game, it's just late game. It's pretty good. Yes, Brotag?
I was just gonna ask, because of the increase of economy cards that let you farm when not being in lane, or just extra farm, and also the reduction in gold gain, or sort of not AoE gold gain, sorry, multi-lane gold gain to 40% from 60%. Is the roaming support playstyle just a lot more viable now, or does that make it even less viable?
Strong. The issue is at the moment offlane is very, very aggressive. If you're running into a curse card kind of using offlaner or something, you might want to consider peeling more of your carry and staying in lane. There are plenty of mechanics to keep, you know, economy in the lane strong. For your support and heavily ward for the carry, but roaming is definitely something that's, you know, strong at the moment because of the lack of vision that people have. It's very easy to gank mid with the support and have the jungler come from the other side, for example. It's very disorientating for a mid laner to have being ganked from both sides at once. And in general, there's a lot of cards that the support can use to gank easily, such as Poised Aggressor and such early is really good. Tyler's Reaper is really good. You can of course use your Lamplighter as you roam. Exoskeleton makes you more durable if you do go to gank. Tower Strider helps you get back to lane better, like quicker once you have done a gank and gone back. So yeah, there are lots of options for a support to roam and be aggressive. If you're running a Bellica support, tend to run Chaos Order. You can still build all the support cards, but if you get really far ahead, you can just pop Glistering Dawn on yourself, the Fireball card, and go around and just stun, right-click Fireball people. It generally kills them. If you need to ult as well, just pop the ult and with the drone down, you'll generally kill people, which is quite nice. So roaming supports with like Bellica and stuff are definitely very possible. Heck, even Kalari support might even see play at some point. Any other questions about common card synergies, or shall I move on to the last bit? What was the caster one? Bog standard caster is Formatage, Atomic Soldier, and Sleeper Agent. Those three. It's your standard caster build that you can run on Gadget, Howie, Gideon, whatever, Bellica if you want to. You can blow people up, self-peer yourself with the silence. Poke, have unlimited mana. Super strong build in general, nothing really wrong with it. Yeah, none of the cards are really replaceable in it if you want to run something else instead. Like instead of Sleeper Agent, you can go for something else, but it's pretty rare you want to. Are they bringing Echo Drive back? Yeah, probably. Just don't know when. I don't know. Not my decision, that is. So complement synergies with extra cards or curve into them. So basically these synergies, such as the shield build, would have this question, can you use it in a curve or can you curve into it well? So we can look at a couple examples of my decks that use these synergies. So we'll look at the 8s build first for Rampage, I think. So V2, so of course I use knowledge for this because you want to scale super hard. Ways to curve into a build that uses these 3 cards. So it's quite a late game build, it's pretty difficult to get to. What you want to do is have your weaker early game, just take it as you have it. Of course I've got Awaken the Emmerich because we're going Vitality, Intellect, and we have Death, so you always pick up Emmerich because I think it's stupid. But basically how you're going to function with this Rampage deck is it is going to be jungle. You're going to clear early with Cold the Weak, it's going to help you clear. Tower Strider is there because I had to fill a card basically. Font of Experience is going to get you scaling in levels harder. It's pretty good if you're just sitting in the jungle and not ganking much, and then you can use Soldier of Fortune to further bolster your XP gain and get more gold, so you can get more intellect and vitality online. Arcane Dance will provide you with some mid-game durability, especially against casters or aggressive junglers and such. It's a very powerful card, should be used very well. Really good on Rampage, who does get burst when you try stall and stuff. If you ult and you feel like you're going to get burst too hard, activate this and then you're going to just heal straight back up through the damage, which is super strong. Wet Virus will allow you to deal with any junglers that want to 1v1 you early or to gank like a carry lane. Shadow Dancer will enhance any mid-game ganks that you want. So all these, they're all health and intellect cards, and they'll curve really nicely into these last 3 cards. You can get Withering Shadow on pretty early by selling things like Shadow Dancer, so you can, as you see, build basically Soldier of Fortune and Arcane Dancer, get a few more points, sell both and get Withering Shadow, and then work on for Shadow Dancer, and then when you get enough points you can sell that for something like Plague Lord Malink. So they're all cards that curve into that, and then you can use gems to complement this. This is the one that I told you about, with the damage reduction, damage return for our mid-game durability and trading basically. Jungle Assassin helps us clear early, so we put 1 point in agility early for that gem specifically, and Cold the Weak. Auto Shield will help keep you alive early, again you can have a weaker early, so you want this. Then you go for the improved health regen, which then enhances the synergy between the death cards which we have, which then, you DPS people down, lose a lot of HP, and then out of combat you can heal your HP, so you don't have to always ult to heal all your HP back. And then extreme late game we get Amplify Aura, which is that last bit of synergy, so we'll have like about 13 intellect, we'll have actually I think 16 intellect or something, 25 vitality, then we're finishing off intellect, get the 15% CDR, which is really good on Rampage, and then have the Amplify Aura. It's a completely different style to playing Rampage. It's literally the complete opposite of the normal style you'd play, which is something like this, which is Growth Chaos, where you build more auto attack based, vitality, agility, like max vitality, bit of agility, and then run things like Thunder Cleaver, Tyrant, whatever, and be super tanky, and be more auto attack based. So yeah, that's essentially how you curve into that sort of synergy. If we look at a shield build one, let's look at Seraphs. This is the bog standard carry shield build with Death, with the Vampiric Elixir. So what we do is we start off with a triple early game card. You can run wards if you want. Buy like the Armoured Footman, Cold the Weak, Poised Aggressor, sell Cold the Weak for Guard Piercer as soon as you can, because that's sort of around when Cold the Weak falls off. You've got a really strong early threshold here, you don't have to buy cards for a while, then you can curve into Swamp Stalker, 6 agility later, so you basically keep him with 6 agility, sell Poised Aggressor. If you get 7 you can sell Armoured Footman and be more aggressive with Poised Aggressor. So this gives you tons of damage early to mid all the way through. Then you can curve into Malink's Tribute, so you get some sustain in mid game. Then you can get March of the Malink if you're dealing with heavy CC and that kind of stuff, Wound Seeker if you're dealing with heavy healing basically, and regen. Struggle finishing people off, that's the card to buy, and then you're going to start curving into Sacred Alchemy, where you can combine that with Malink's Tribute, and then maybe Swamp Stalker or Guard Piercer, like Guard Piercer, and then you sell that into Swamp Stalker once you've got those 2 online, and then you can go into Vampiric Blade as your final card after the 2 shields. It spikes really fast, makes you very powerful when you've got this, but you do want to win pretty quickly once you've got the 3 cards, because of course they're not extreme late game cards, but you'll be very powerful at this stage. Yes, Doc Lucas? But there's a 4k card, 15 power, just a stack. Yes, it keeps stacking up, you can keep using it. As I said, it's a bog standing caster build. I told you about the 3 cards. They usually have a power tap involved in this build too. What you do is when you hit 25 intellect, maybe 1 vitality, you can start leveling vitality. I did it today on stream. Sometimes you get it up to the 13 mark for the ability armor, sometimes you get it all the way for the health, but in between this, sometimes you get 4k gold. You just go back, you buy a power tap, So when your cards buy it, before you equip the card, usually the Atomic Soldier. Go up there, keep doing stuff. You know, level Vitality. Once you go Vitality 25, I'd never level the Agility really. You could level up like to 7 for the 5 power you get there, but you might as well just keep going for power taps and then just keep power tapping basically. So it is a very good card. Yeah, Protag.
I was going to ask if the 2 piercing cards scale to late game at all on any hero.
Pen cards.
Yeah, the basic pen and the ability pen death cards. Are
So,
they just curve cards?
As
Or do they not have enough stats on?
90% of people will get Vitality anyway, they will have the ability armor on the 3rd proc. They'll probably have a bit of ability armor in their build anyway, especially tanky people, which makes Invader Mage pretty much useless late game, so you don't really want that one. Guard Pierce is strong really far into the game. It will be weaker than against the people that build heavy agility, so it's strong against carries until they get their agility high up, and then it's better against casters, and you absolutely chunk them. But yeah, then it does start to fall off again because everyone starts to get a lot of agility, and there's a lot of cards that give basic armor. Like you can like half the cards will give basic armor at the moment or something crazy. So yeah, it's pretty easy to build around the pen. So they're really strong early, pretty strong mid game, then they fall off quite hard late. So I wouldn't run them in the final build. Any other questions? None at all? Because we're going to be closing out the lesson next, so now's the last call for questions. All good? Protag is typing, yes.
Sorry again.
No worries.
I was talking to someone about the Sand Speeder cards, and I was told that
Yes.
when I read it before, it seemed like it was an 8% increase out of combat and a 4% decrease in combat. But from what I've heard, it's actually an 8% increase out of combat and a 4% increase in combat. Does that make it any good as a curve, or are they just better cards to curve with than having an 8% increase in
I
out of
just
combat?
prefer Nitro Boost in like 90% of cases, having burst move speed to juke and then get into ganks, get out of ganks, get out of situations, get into situations. So much more better than just having this consistent sort of move along move speed. I find Sand Speed is more of the kind of card you run on like maybe Kalari. Apart from that, I wouldn't really run it on anyone. Someone who roams heavy is good at Sand Speed. Otherwise, I'd run Nitro Boost. I don't think it's very good in jungle in general either. Its Nitro Boost is better for getting into the gank. It doesn't even cost mana, so yeah. I would always run Nitro Boost over Sand Speed unless I'm Kalari, basically, or another roaming hero. Yes, Phantom Phoenix. What would you run on Seraph or Aurora Jungle? Seraph I run the shield build, Aurora, I want Echo Drive back before I run Aurora Jungle again, because I think it's kind of meh without Echo Drive. But I'd probably go Death Knowledge and then have Blinks and Melty cards in them. That card that you stand still 2 seconds and go invis? Yeah, what about it? It goes damage. How does that work? Basically, it deals the damage when you pop out of stealth. Richter's Hook, for some reason, realizes that you're there. Like, if you hook them sort of mid to close range, they'll take the damage anyway, but, you know, longer range, it doesn't proc the damage. But basically, yeah, you're standing there, and if you come out of stealth, so you move or you attack, it'll explode, dealing damage based on how long you stood there up to a certain cap. I think Seraph Jungle was very good, by the way. But yeah, that's how it goes, basically. Yeah, it does an AoE damage, basically, like a Unstable Cyborg or something. Echo Drive is a card that they had on PTR and such that they removed on release because they need to balance it, or there were bugs. I think it was a bug one, Echo Drive on like June Winds, which was a balance issue. Echo Drive reset the last cooldown, the cooldown of your last ability use. If you use Aurora ult, it resets it. It then uses double the cooldown of the ability it resets, so if you do let's say Narbash Funk, which is 8-second cooldown, and then reset it and Funk again, it's a 16-second cooldown Echo Drive, whereas if it's Aurora ult, it's like a 260-second cooldown. It's massive. But it's a really nice way to balance it. It uses like 20% of your current mana as well, so it's very hefty on the mana. It's really big cooldown for doubling ults and stuff, but it was quite nice for using on like the AIDS Rampage build, for example, instead of Plague Lord. You can ult, go into Rampage, your ult form, pop both your dot damage things on them that kill you as well, but you don't take any damage because you Rampage. Then you throw a rock at them from Egypt, and then you reset, and they throw another rock at them, and then they're stood there for like 4.5 seconds, and they just die as they melt, and there's nothing they can do about it. So it's quite nice on him, because then again, by the next ult, you know, reset Echo Drive, basically it's off cooldown again. So yeah, you can use that quite often on the rock. It doesn't really work with his ult, of course, because when you ult, you're generally using ability, and then you're not going to reset the ult, because you have to wait for it to go on cooldown. Is there a counter to Wukong running Awaken the Emmerich? Yeah, just get vision, or go kill him, or have a global ult. You know, it's not too difficult. On Wukong I use the same build as Seraph, so Death Order, and you run the shield builds, but there's plenty to go. You can do backdoor builds, minion master builds, lots of different styles to Wukong. More carry-oriented builds of Chaos and Shatter go on. Any other questions? Is Order Knowledge optimal for mid laners? I think, yeah, Knowledge Chaos for Belica. Knowledge Death is pretty good for aggro casters. Knowledge Order if you need the wards. Knowledge Growth if you're going for Malinx Nasher, basically. I want to use Flame the Second to keep taking Raptors. Stuff like that. So there's different options always, but I'd almost always take Knowledge. It's very rare I wouldn't take Knowledge. It's pretty strong. Oh. Morricel Protag typing, no? Okay. Shall I close out the lesson? I'll close out the lesson. Okay, so I thank you all for being here. That'll be the end of day 1. Day 2 is going to be fairly similar, so you can come again. I'm basically going to be talking about the same stuff. I'll probably include a couple things. Growth Totem is kind of worth it, but the power doesn't stay off you discard it, Marcel. It's worth it if you want to snowball and get to late game. Malinx Nasher is good on Shinbi, yes. So yeah, thank you all for attending. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I hope you learned lots from it. If you have any more questions, feel free to PM me. I hope to see many of you for the future lessons, especially Saturday, Sundays. They're going to be a lot more in-depth. I'm going to have some examples and stuff. We're going to be looking, you know, a little bit more into v42, into the nitty-gritty of an actual specific builds rather than just general card synergies and stuff. And how you actually build decks. Like Saturday always to be all deck building and stuff. Sunday's going to be a bit more focused on the map and economy and hero design as well, and where heroes go. So we're going to be sort of doing it like that. Yeah, thank you all for attending. As for stream, thank you for watching on stream, mainly for the purpose of the VOD. But I hope you learned lots from it. If you want to join in these lessons actually and answer questions and stuff, feel free to hop on the Discord, !lesson or lessons, can't remember which one it is. We'll bring up the Discord that you can then join. You can sign up using the sign up channels by mentioning me. It's a bit too late for this one, but future sessions, v42 sessions, same time tomorrow, so 9 PM BST, a little bit delayed today. And then Saturday, Sunday, it's 3 PM to 5 PM BST, 2-hour sessions, more advanced. But I hope they're also useful to you. Thank you all for the follows and support. Fellas, thank you for the host. Yeah, otherwise, good night, and I'll see you all tomorrow for a stream at 11 AM if you're interested in watching. Bye bye.
Thanks, Blood.